Coming up on the Paper Talk, we'll be talking about the morning after the night before, some of the fallout from that absolutely horrible result for Manchester United at Anfield against Liverpool yesterday. I don't even want to say the score out loud, so I won't. We'll also have a couple of transfer stories as well, so let's check it out. Jay here from Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford and it's raining, it's miserable, it's dismal, both physically and metaphorically, after yesterday's hammering at Anfield. There's no point in sugarcoating it. A lot of the news this morning centres around the morning after the night before, quotes from the game yesterday, the reaction from the game yesterday. I was going to read you all the quotes, but I'll just paraphrase them because, quite frankly, I'm depressed reading over him. Gary Neville laid into United, as you'd expect. He singled out Bruno Fernandes as a player that came in for a lot of criticism, looking at the fact that, you know, he's a captain, it wasn't a captain's performance, throwing his arms about, play acting when he got pushed by Ibrahim Konate in the chest. I think he was holding his face. Neville was giving it in both barrels. Now, I agree with a lot of that. I think Bruno Fernandes' performance at Anfield yesterday was terrible, if I'm being brutally honest, and I like Bruno. But he just let the occasion get to him. And when we started losing and we needed someone to show a calmer head, a bit of stoicism perhaps, he wasn't that guy, he wasn't that captain. And the really disappointing thing about it was the fact that he wasn't alone. It wasn't just him that lost their head. Other senior players, other experienced players lost their head as well, including Luke Shaw, who also got criticism from some of the commentators yesterday. Now, one thing that Gary Neville did say about Bruno, which I don't agree with, was this idea that he wanted to be substituted. I think there was a comment that he was annoyed that Ten Hag didn't take him off. And when I've looked at the footage of what Gary Neville's talking about, it looks like it isn't Bruno saying, come on, sub me off. I think he's arguing or saying to the ref, how long's Mo Salah going to take getting back into position? And then he's asking what's going on with the subs, because I think there was a bit of confusion as to who was coming off. So I don't personally think he is saying, why am I not coming off? I think he's having a bit of a moan. He was moaning about everything, but moaning about Salah getting back into position. So, listen, there's not much, positive to say from yesterday. I'm not going to stick up for any of them. They were pretty woeful. Roy Keane, as you'd expect, had a lot to say on it. Again, he laid into the players. He was critical of the fact that they were laughing and joking with some of the Anfield staff at half-time and coming out for the second half when we were already 1-0 down. He said, I can't be doing any of that rubbish, I think he called it. And he said about the circus being back in town, about the celebrations for the League Cup and the sort of the fallout from that, and it being a bit of a circus and players sort of taking their eye off the ball. And he said that when he was a player here at Manchester United, obviously his standards were as high as anyone's. He would keep a lookout for that, for players getting above their station and getting carried away and thinking the job was done when it wasn't. And I understand that. Sometimes Roy Keane, I think, can be overly miserable. He can take it too far. But he's got a good point here. The best teams and the best United teams have always won trophies, acknowledged it, moved on. Look at the next game. That's how you win a treble. That's how in 2008 you win the Premier League and then you go on and win the Champions League. Because you've got that ability to go, yes, we've won this is great, but now it's on to the next one. There's nothing wrong with celebrating a win and celebrating a League Cup win. I was as guilty as anyone of celebrating that. I loved it, but I don't play for Manchester United. Now the players can enjoy it. Rightly they should, but then you have to go again. And now they got away with it a little bit against West Ham. I don't want to be too critical because we got a win, but there was a bit where you thought this isn't quite vintage Manchester United. Maybe that was a little bit of a fallout. Then you go into Anfield, you have to step up, and they didn't. Manchester United didn't step up against Liverpool at all. It was completely atrocious that second half, and it feels bad to single anyone out because I think pretty much every player underperformed. Now, there could be more repercussions from this because Erik ten Hag was fuming. He called them unprofessional. He's obviously not going to stand for that. He said this was different from the Brentford game because the Brentford game, it was a poor first half. Second half, I think it ended up 0-0 in the second half. Not that that's anything to shout about. This game against Liverpool just didn't turn up in the second half at all, went to pieces. And when he's calling his players unprofessional, that says how angry he is. Now, there's talk of a few players perhaps going in the summer. There's more reports, I think Sport Insider or Football Insider are saying that Scott McTominay is wanted by West Ham, I think, are in for him. Newcastle as well, producer Ethan even is in here saying Newcastle won Scott McTominay. I think there was reports that West Ham were looking at McTominay, Maguire and Martial as triple swoop there. There's also a report I seen from a paper in Wolves or a website in Wolves saying that Wolves are looking at Harry Maguire as well, potentially. Ben Jacobs, I think, is the journalist, saying that Wolves could be in for Harry Maguire. So it looks like a few of these players, I know Maguire didn't play yesterday, I'm not blaming him, of course there's nothing to do with what happened at Anfield, but looks like a few of the players that aren't first team players or in and around the first team but not regular starters could be heading out in the summer, with Martial, who's obviously had his injury problems, with Scott McTominay, who's probably fourth or fifth choice in midfield now, and with Harry Maguire, who might be club captain but he's certainly not a starting captain, all heading out for the door. You think United would be able to get some money for those players and bring in new talent, because it's obvious we need more players. You look at yesterday and Liverpool, they've got Cody Gakpo, they've got Darwin Núñez, and they've got Mo Salah as their front three. We've got Anthony Murray, I think he's a good lad, but he's still finding his feet. You've got Wout Weghorst, who, you know, he's got a goal in the League Cup for us, and he's had some good performances for us. But can you rely on him to get you goals? No. There's a possibility he might not even score in the Premier League for Manchester United. Now, I hope he does, obviously, but there's a chance he couldn't. So you're overly reliant on Marcus Rashford for your goals. Now, we've seen in the past, you know, Bruno's chipped in, Fred's chipped in, Sancho's chipped in, but it's almost like it's Rashford or bust in some of these games. If he doesn't get you the goal, then you're going to struggle. Where you look at Liverpool, they're bringing players off the bench like Jota and Firmino, and I've been critical of Firmino, but he came off the bench, he gets a goal. They've got options there. Manchester United don't have enough options. We're relying on an 18-year-old in Alejandro Garnacho. Jadon Sancho, he's not an out-and-out goal scorer. Anthony Elanga, his goal scoring record is, you know, it's nothing to shout home about, is it? And that's being kind. So it's obvious United need to bring in a striker, a top-level striker, and if we need to raise funds to do that, then we've got some players there that could be heading out the Old Trafford door. And you think we're not going to get loads of money for him, but you think you'd be able to get for the likes of McTominay, Martial, and Harry Maguire, at least for the three, maybe 60, 70 million quid or something that could go towards a striker. Maybe you bring in another midfielder as well, and possibly a defender. I think there's going to be some signings to be made in the summer. We don't know what's going to happen with the goalkeeper situation as well. I'm not blaming David De Gea for the loss yesterday. I don't think it's his fault we lost 7-0, but there are question marks as whether he's the right keeper for Erik ten Hag's system, and I don't think yesterday did anything to quash the idea that he isn't. So we'll wait and see what happens on that front as well. There was talk of him taking a pay cut and it being incentivised so that he's not guaranteed the money he's on now unless he plays all the games or plays more games. So he may end up, if he stays, being number 2, but that's a different story for a different paper talk. I'm going to wrap it up there. Go and check out the reaction if you want to put yourself through it from the likes of Andy Tate, Stephen Houser, Joe Smith and myself from yesterday. We'll have the Paddock podcast later on as well, and don't forget we have got some big games coming up. You look at the games we've got coming up and a lot of them are winnable. We've got Real Betis this week, and then we've got Southampton at the weekend, and then we've got Fulham in the FA Cup. So United can bounce back. We've got games and we've got teams we can beat to bounce back from yesterday from. It's going to stay with us for a long time. That's the kind of result and the defeats to your rivals that you get reminded of about forever. But if we can start getting wins back on the board, then we can at least turn this season, or not turn this season around, but it's been a good season so far, but continue the vein of challenging for trophies, winning trophies and winning football matches. That's what Manchester United have always been about, and that's what we need to be about under Erik ten Hag, who I have every faith in to sort this mess out. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. I'm Jay Motty. This has been a Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.